I will be reading Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight.
Good morning. Y'all hear me all okay? As Jeff said, this is my last Sunday, so some of you are probably happy. But I want to again thank the elders for allowing me to come here in the first place. I want to thank the parents for being able to deal with this crazy summer. And as Jeff said, if you want to know a little bit more about that crazy summer, stay after worship, and I'm going to attempt to try to explain everything we did. We did a lot this summer. We did a lot. We had a lot going on. We had a lot of plans change. So to start out, I want to tell you right now, I was not supposed to be here. I was not supposed to be standing here at Conyers Church of Christ. And before I kind of explain why I was not supposed to be here, I want to tell you a story. Some of you older folks are going to kind of laugh at this story because it's about a teenager who knew everything. It's a teenager who knew his whole entire life. Specifically, a 17-year-old boy 2 weeks away from going to Freed-Hardeman University. He was put in a dorm. He didn't want to be in it. Okay, he already knew what social club he was going to be in before he stepped on Freed. If you don't know what social clubs are, they're just little fun groups that we have at Freed. And his social club was in a different dorm. So he knew that after 2 weeks, they give you a free move, where you can move, no charge, no nothing, just get in a room, right? He knew he was going to get free move. He knew he was going to be in Benson for that 2 weeks. He knew that he was going to be in the social club before anything. Here's the funny part. He knew he was going to get a girlfriend. Yeah. He knew that he was going to get a girlfriend, and that girlfriend was going to stay his girlfriend for 3 years. They were going to get engaged in a junior year, be engaged all senior year, get married afterwards, and then start life. Yeah. Better yet, he knew his whole life, right? He knew what internships he was going to be taking for his freshman year, sophomore year, and junior year, have a job by senior year summer. He was going to go to Kentucky for the first one to be a youth intern for a very close friend of his. He was going to get a second one was going to be a local congregation back home. And the third one was going to be the congregation he came from. Okay? He had it planned out. Oh, yeah. Then he also knew that he was going to get some job, okay, and he was going to go to some congregation in his senior year summer and be the youth minister there for the rest of his life. He had a plan. He had a plan that he knew was going to work. And then he got to college. And all of that, all done, okay? He didn't get into that dorm. He didn't get a girlfriend. He did get into the social club, though. And he didn't get the internships. Because the internship was planned. The one in Kentucky for the summer was planned already. It was final. We've been talking about this for years. He was going to go there. And then 2 days before lectureships at Freed-Hardeman were going to start, he gets a text. Oh, by the way, we can't have you. We're remodeling our building, and the elders have decided they can't afford a youth intern. Panic. If you haven't figured it out yet, the story's about me. I was the naive kid that had his whole life planned out. And we're going to wait, and I'm going to tell you the end of that story at the end. But that is what we're talking about. We're talking about plans, but specifically God's plan, because I may have had a plan. I may have known exactly what I wanted to do. I may have said, this is exactly how it's going to happen. This is how we're going to do it. Done. If this summer's taught me anything, it's plans change. One plan doesn't change, though, and that's God's plan. God's plan won't change. And so that's what we're talking about. We're going to be talking about what we do with God's plan, what God does with God's plan, and what we should do with God's plan. So, let's jump right into it. If you were like me, you like having plans. And not just any plans, strict plans. If I say I'm going to start at 8 o'clock, I'm going to be there at 7:45, and if I say I'm going to end at 5 o'clock, I'm going to end at 5 o'clock. That's not how it works most of the time, right? But we want to make our own plan. We want to be like, God, hold up, you don't understand. I got this. I know what I need. You don't worry about it. I'll make my plan. Because I struggle with that. I did that. I said, God, hold up, I know what I need. I know what I'm going to do. But that's not how it works. And that's not the truth. That's not how plans work. And then we also try to understand God's plan. How can we understand God's plan? How can we understand what is going on in our lives if we can't understand something like Matthew 10:30? If you look back at Matthew 10:30, in Matthew 10 you have Jesus talking, and specifically this verse and this little section, sometimes they give you headers and stuff, it's talking about not worrying. Okay, not worrying about your life. They give you the example of the sparrows, how much a sparrow than you, how he clothes the earth, how he clothes the birds of the air. Are you not worth any more? This verse specifically, though, talks about the hairs on your head. Okay, that God knows the number of hairs on your head. I don't know about you. I can't count the number of hairs on my head. Now, some of you are close. Okay, some of you might be able to. I cannot. So, if we can't understand if we can't know something that simple or that something so small, how can we understand our entire lives? How can we understand what God has in store for us or what we're going to face later down the road? Because God knows everything about us, everything that we've been through, everything that we're going to go through, how we're going to do it. He knows everything, okay? A little precursor to what I'm going to talk about later after services, about the hiking trip that we went on. The phrase, if you can't see God in any of this, you need to check yourself, was used very frequently. Because in the mountains especially, they're beautiful, okay? For a time period, I even grew up in the mountains. So I took advantage of that when I was there. But going back and looking about, and you'll see some of the pictures, it looks like I got them off Google, okay? I swear I didn't. I took them. But it's so beautiful there, and you just see God in everything. You just see God in some of the things there. Like out of the balcony we were staying at a cabin, you could look out and the mountains were in the background. It literally looked like something out of a movie. One of the days, me and Walker were just sitting in rocking chairs with coffee looking like old men. It was great, okay? But it was just, you could just see God. And if something can make something like that, knows how to make all that, knows all about that, how could somebody like us try to understand that plan? How could somebody like us try to comprehend what he can? So, moving on to what God does. I have a lot of verses here. Psalms 33, 13 through 15. I want to read that one. The Lord looks down from heaven, sees all the children of man. From where he sits enthroned, he looks out on all of the inhabitants of the earth. He who fashions the hearts of them all and observes all their deeds. Looking at verse 15, or 13 through 15. 13, he looks down on all his children. He looks down at all of his children. But not only that, in 15, he who fashions the heart of them all and observes all their deeds. I love sports, so here's a sports analogy we're going to use for today. In football, okay? I know we have a few football coaches in the auditorium, but there, especially, I've been to a couple UT games. I'm a big UT, University of Tennessee. Make sure I clarify that. And I've been to a couple games with my papa. My papa in a high school he used to teach at was this: the coordinators that sit up in the box. Okay, they sit up at the top and they look down over the game. Okay, they're watching the entire game, letting the coaches know what they see, because they're at the top. They see the whole playing field. Okay, as a player, you only see certain amounts, right? Okay, you can only see what's in front of you. Okay, as a coach, you can only see what you see on the sidelines. But the coordinators up top see everything. Hey, this might work if we do it this way. If you cut on this side, you may be able to get a stretch and run. Okay? God's at the top, and He's looking down, and He sees all of us. He sees all of us, and He sees what we're doing. But He also made us. He made each and every one of us, made each and everyone's heart. So we all have something special about us. I'm going to get a little more into that later. Isaiah 14:27. It reads, "For the Lord of hosts has purposed, and who will annul it? His hand is stretched out, and who will turn it back?" Going back to what I talked about the mountains. Somebody like that made all of that, and if He has a hand in each and every one of us, our lives, how can we push it back? Or better yet, who can? Who can say no to somebody that powerful? Who can say no to somebody like that? If you think you can, I'm sorry, you can't. He is all-powerful. He is all-knowing. So how can we push His hand back? There is nothing that can stop God's plan. I'm going to repeat that. There is nothing that can stop God's plan. You may try. I know I have. I don't believe I'm the only one. But you can't stop God's plan. As I drop all of my notes. 1 John 3:20. We have John, in this, he's talking about moving from love to hatred. Okay? If you look back at 1 John 3, he is talking about loving each other instead of hating each other. Okay? But specifically in 1 John 3:20, he plainly tells us at the end, God knows it all. He knows everything. It's the literal words. Done. Case closed. He knows everything. Plain and simple. People try to refute that, okay? People will try to refute that He knows everything. But if we follow this, it can't get any more plain than that. Is that He knows everything. So, let's have faith in that. That He knows everything. Jeremiah 29:11 talks about setting us up for success. God has a plan for each and every one of us, a plan to prosper. He is not going to set us up for failure. That is something I want to get across. Because I feel in our lives, we like to think that we may not always know where we're going. And we may always think we're going the wrong path, or that we were set up for failure. Or when things get tough, we tend to blame God. Because this is what He's put in my life. So He's setting me up for failure. God's not sitting up there looking down and thinking, oh, I can't wait to mess up their life today. Oh, they don't know this yet, but whoo, I got them this time. No. It's not what God's doing. God has a plan for each and every one of us, not for failure, but for success. He is going to set us up for success. But when things are hard, they're hard for a reason. They will help you later down the road, I promise. So we talked about what we do, right? We try to make our own plan. We try to navigate through stuff. We try to do what we want to do, okay? And now we've talked about what God does. God is setting us up for success. He is all-knowing. He knows everything. He is trying to help us in our life, okay? So let's reverse what we do and talk about what we should do. The verse Noah read for us, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him and He will direct your paths. This is a powerful verse. It's a verse that we've grown up kind of, if you've grown up in the church, you learn this in Bible class, you had to memorize it for a hiking trip. Some of the kids are laughing because we had to do that. But it's a powerful verse still. Because we still try to trust in ourselves. Even after everything I just said, we still try to trust in ourselves. That doesn't make sense. We know He's all-knowing. We know He is all-powerful. But yet, we still try to lean on our own understanding, even after knowing that He knows way more than we do. So that's what we should do. We should trust in the Lord. Not trust in what we know, but trust in what God knows. Okay? So, back to my football analogy. I'm also going to throw in a little basketball. I love basketball. It's my life. You don't know everything when you start out the game. Okay? When you've never played a day in your life, you don't just walk onto the field and go, oh, I know more than the coach does. Oh, I'm about to go to the NFL because I know everything about it. I'm about to be the best QB because I know everything about the game. You don't step onto the basketball court and go, oh, boom, I know everything. I'm LeBron James now. No. You must be taught by somebody who knows way more, right? A coach. A coach knows way more than you do, period. Okay? You want proof of that? All major sports still have a coach. So, let God be your coach. If God says, don't go to the left, you're going to get tackled. Go to the right, you'll have an opening, run. Don't go to the left. If your coach says, okay, when you go down the court, fake left, go right. Don't just fake right, go left. Abraham's a great example of that because God told Abraham, hey, go. Abraham said, yes, sir, and went. No questions asked. So, think of God as your coach. Let God be your coach. Let Him direct you. Let Him coach you to be the best that you can be so you can be great. Moving on, 1 Peter 2:9. We are a chosen priesthood. Each one of us are chosen. Okay? And I want to point that out because we all at times will feel this sense of unworthiness, right? It's just life. At some point in our lives, we will not feel like we have done what we were supposed to, or we are not worthy of God, or that God picked the wrong one, or God doesn't care about me. He has so many other people to care about. No. He chose you. You are a royal priesthood. You are His child. So think of that way too. Is that God's not only your coach, He's your father. Some of the kids will disagree with me, but the parents know more. I promise. Let Him teach you life. Let Him push you through life. Let Him coach you. Let Him be your coordinator. Let Him do these things. Trust in Him so that He can move you, so that He can show you which paths you should go. Because, as we've already said, we don't know where we're going. We don't know what is best for us. But God does. God is all-knowing. And then in 1 Timothy 2:3-4, because before I get into that, I'm jumping ahead of myself. What we should do is fulfill God's plan. Plain and simple. We should strive to fulfill God's plan. I didn't add this verse on the PowerPoint, but how we should fulfill God's plan is following His commandments. Ephesians 2:9. Walk in His plan. Okay? He's given us right here instruction manual how to do life. Follow its commandments. Follow in its ways. Okay? But the next thing is we really want to fulfill God's plan, it's by receiving salvation. God's plan involves us becoming Christians, being baptized, and that's the truth. 1 Timothy 2, 3-4, now that I'm back on track. He wants us all to know Him, but He also wants us all to be with Him. And if we want to be with Him, we want to fulfill God's plan, then we need to receive salvation. We need to be able to fulfill God's plan and be able to keep His commandments and do everything He wants us to do. And that's the truth of it. We slip up, we try to make our own paths, but we'll come back. Because I like to think of God's plan as a road, specifically. It's a highway, right? Now, here in Atlanta, it's not really true, but going down the interstate's the fastest way, okay? Sometimes I've had a couple of kids lead me back roads to avoid traffic, but normal places, if you're going state to state, interstate's the fastest way, right? You take the interstate and you go, okay? But we like to do this. We like to take an exit, go back roads. But if I'm trying to go straight, and I can go straight, there's no traffic, it's just going. But then I want to veer off the road and go back road that does this number and just kind of goes this just to get back to here. What's the point? What's the point in that? Stay on the road. Just stay on the highway. You'll get to where you're going so much faster. You'll cruise right on. We may do that from time to time. We may veer off the road. We may take that back road that just does this. Just make sure we can pull ourselves back on the highway. The ending to the story I told at the beginning is what happened to me. I stayed in the dorm that I was in, had one of the best roommates I think I could have. He was fantastic. He helped me spiritually and physically and emotionally. When I was down, he'd pick me up. When he was down, I picked him up. We had a bond. We still have a bond. I talk to him frequently. Also on that same dorm room floor, third floor Faro, I met some of the best people possible. I met such a close group of friends that we have this group that when we at least try to find a way to do things once a week. Okay, college life can get crazy, people get schedules, people get busy, but we find a way to at least hang out one time a week as a group. Okay, I wouldn't have been able to do that if I was in Benson, and that's the truth. I would not have these close friends if I was in a different dorm. Okay? But to the internship, I had just enough time. It was right before lectureships. If you don't know what lectureships are at Freed, I suggest going. They're fantastic. Speakers everywhere. Everybody's dressed up nice. If you're a Bible major, you get out of your classes, which is even awesome. So it's great. Okay? But I had just enough time to fill out 3 interviews, okay? What they do for all Bible majors is they send out a list of saying, here are the churches that are coming during lectureships. Here is to fill out, like saying, hey, here's my name, here's my number, here's my email, set up time for an interview. Okay? Plain and simple, right? I was like, oh, I don't need to do that. Please, I already have a job. They even said, if you already have a job, fill it out. And I said, oh, I'll fill this one out. I already have this job. Then I got the text. And I was like, whoa! I got on my laptop, so I filled out 3. I had just enough for I think it was 3, one of the last 3 interviews. And I just start filling them out, hoping that I had enough time. I had one that I filled it out and I went to one the next day. That's how close of a gap we were at. First one I went to, insanely nervous, first interview for any church. They had, I'm talking, a whole crew coming. It was nerve-wracking. I'm not going to lie. Then the second one I went to was just a preacher. I was like, okay. Very good interview. Third one, preacher and a deacon. Good interview. So then I'm stuck with the problem. I don't know which one I want. I made a list. I was like, well, I think I could, if I do this one, maybe this will work. If I get this one, it'll put these benefits. Here's the pros and cons. So I listed out pros and cons of each one. It got to a point where I was so stressing myself out, I called my mom. I was like, Mom, what am I supposed to do? And she goes, pray. I was like, that's probably a good idea. So I prayed. I said, God, I'm leaving this one up to you. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I know you got a plan. My plans didn't go like I wanted them to, but I'll let you take this one. Next day, I get a call asking if I want to do another interview. I said, absolutely. That was Jeff. Do another interview with Kirk. I thought it went really well, but then afterwards, I was like, did I mess up? Did I do this? Did I say something wrong? Do I get this job? Stuff like that. Then I get a call back. We want to offer you the job. And I said, absolutely, I'm taking it. That was the matter of 4 days. Right back to back to back. It was awesome. Because I knew it was the first one that got to me. I knew it after I prayed and God said do it. It was one of the best decisions I've ever made. Hands down. So, I tell you this story because my plan didn't work. My plan wasn't the right plan. Being here, I've learned way more than I think I could anywhere else. This summer made me realize a bunch of things, made me realize what I want to do for the rest of my life. So, stop trying to make your plan. Because I did that. It doesn't work. Let God take the wheel. Let Him make the plan. If you need prayers of the church or want to fulfill God's plan in baptism, please come while we stand and as we sing.